You people need grooming lessons before touching patients. Dr. Marcus Wellington pulls out electric clippers from the supply cabinet. Nurse Angela Thompson freezes as he plugs them into the wall. Her hair, singed from saving a burn victim, becomes his target. The emergency room goes silent. Phones rise. Recording begins. Wellington's laugh echoes as he powers on the clippers. The buzzing fills the air like a weapon charging. "Let me fix this mess for you." He grabs Angela's head, forcing it still. The clippers tear through her hair in jagged strips. Patients watch in horror as beautiful black curls fall in chunks across the sterile floor. "There we go," Wellington chuckles, shaving another section completely bald. His laughter grows louder with each pass. "Much better. Now you look like you belong in a professional setting." Angela's reflection stares back from the monitor, half bald, half intact, a patchwork of humiliation. Wellington continues laughing, admiring his handiwork like an artist. The 7-year-old she saved whispers, "Mommy, why is the doctor laughing while he hurts her?" This laughing doctor had no idea he just destroyed his own career. Metropolitan General Hospital towers over Chicago's downtown like a glass cathedral of healing. Inside its pristine walls, a war nobody talks about has been raging for years. The kind of war fought with whispered slurs, unequal assignments, and systematic humiliation disguised as professional standards. Angela Thompson adjusts her scrubs for the 3rd time tonight. 8 years she's walked these marble corridors. 8 years of saving lives, comforting dying patients, working 16-hour doubles to pay for her mother's stage 4 breast cancer treatments. The chemotherapy costs $14,000 per cycle. Without her Metropolitan General Insurance, her mother dies. At 32, Angela carries herself with quiet dignity that commands respect from patients and families. Children stop screaming when she enters trauma rooms. Worried parents clutch her hands during the worst moments of their lives. Her medical knowledge rivals most residents, but her skin color keeps her from advancement opportunities that less qualified white nurses receive routinely. She earned her night shift charge nurse position through pure excellence. 0 patient complaints in 8 years. Countless lives saved. Awards gathering dust on her apartment shelf because celebrating them feels hollow when colleagues still question her competence daily. But excellence means nothing to Dr. Marcus Wellington. Wellington rules the emergency department like medieval royalty. 45 years old, silver-haired, with old money confidence that silences dissent and opens executive doors. His grandfather funded the hospital's original construction. His father endowed the cardiac wing. His family's name adorns conference rooms and research laboratories throughout the building. More importantly, his annual donations exceed most department budgets. Board members take his calls immediately. Medical licensing officials owe their positions to his political connections. City councilmen attend his charity galas. When Wellington speaks, institutional power listens. He also despises anyone whose ancestors didn't arrive on the Mayflower. The pattern started subtly 3 years ago, questioning Angela's medication dosages in front of worried families, reassigning her successful cases to white nurses for continuity of care, comments about communication barriers during staff meetings when Angela's diction rivals television anchors, jokes about diversity hires and affirmative action standards whispered loud enough for targeted ears. Other minority employees recognize the game. Dr. Priya Patel, the brilliant cardiologist whose Indian accent becomes Wellington's frequent target. Nurse Carmen Rodriguez, whose Spanish surname earns extra scrutiny despite her perfect English and Yale nursing degree. Physical therapist Marcus Johnson, whose athletic build somehow makes Wellington uncomfortable around female patients. They exchange knowing glances during Wellington's tirades, but stay silent. Jobs at Metropolitan General represent career pinnacles. Speaking up means career suicide. The hospital's Human Resources Department, led by Wellington's golf buddy, has perfected the art of protecting institutional interests over employee dignity. Angela's personal life remains carefully compartmentalized from workplace politics. Colleagues know she recently married after a whirlwind romance, but she maintained her maiden name professionally to avoid complications. They've never met her husband. They don't know his position or influence. They definitely don't know he's been documenting Wellington's behavior patterns for 3 months. David Richardson accepted the hospital director position with one mission: systematic reform from within. At 40, the Harvard-educated administrator spent 15 years dismantling institutional racism in healthcare systems across 3 states. His appointment raised predictable eyebrows. Too young, too idealistic, too focused on social justice nonsense instead of profit margins. But his track record silenced critics. Patient satisfaction scores increased 20% under his leadership. Staff retention improved dramatically. Medical malpractice settlements decreased to record lows. Most importantly, he accomplished change without touching bottom lines that hospital boards worship. David's investigation into Wellington began quietly. Anonymous complaints from minority staff members, patterns in patient assignment data, review of disciplinary actions showing clear racial bias, security footage revealing inappropriate interactions, financial records showing how Wellington's donations influenced administrative decisions. Tonight's incident began with pure heroism. 7-year-old Marcus Williams arrived unconscious with third-degree burns covering 40% of his small body. House fire claimed his bedroom while the family slept downstairs. Paramedics barely detected a pulse during transport. While other emergency staff hesitated, overwhelmed by the severity, Angela dove into action. She ignored protocol requiring senior physician approval for critical interventions. She held the screaming, burning child as flames from his clothing singed her carefully maintained hair. Her split-second decisions, airway management, IV access, pain medication, saved Marcus's life during those crucial first minutes. Wellington arrived 20 minutes later to find Angela washing soot and blood from her hands. The burned section of her hair, sacrificed for a child's survival, dangled in singed chunks around her collar. Her uniform bore scorch marks. Her hands showed minor burns from grabbing the flaming child. Instead of gratitude for saving a life, Wellington saw an opportunity for humiliation. Security cameras captured every moment of what followed, the cruel laughter echoing through the emergency bay. The methodical, deliberate haircutting designed for maximum psychological damage, the way other staff members averted their eyes, terrified of becoming secondary targets. Most importantly, they captured Wellington's exact words, evidence that would soon transform from workplace harassment into federal civil rights violations. Angela finished her shift in dignified silence. Patients stared at her mutilated appearance. Colleagues whispered behind supply cabinets. She held her head high despite the patchwork scalp, despite tears threatening to fall, despite wondering if saving that child's life was worth this public destruction of her dignity. What she didn't know was that her husband had been building a comprehensive case against Wellington for months. The hair-cutting incident wasn't random cruelty. It was the final piece of evidence needed to destroy a career built on systematic racism and protected by institutional power. Wellington's reckoning was 18 hours away. He just didn't know it yet. The video goes viral in 17 minutes. Nurse Carmen Rodriguez posted the haircutting footage to TikTok at 3:47 a.m. with shaking hands. "This is what racism looks like in 2025, she typed, tears blurring her vision. By 4:04 a.m., the clip had 10,000 views. By morning rush hour, it exploded across every social media platform. Hospital humiliation trends nationally within 6 hours. The comments section becomes a battlefield of outrage and support. "Fire this racist doctor immediately," demands a mother whose child Angela once saved. "Sue the hospital into bankruptcy," writes a civil rights attorney offering free representation. Wellington's name spreads like wildfire. Marcus Wellington Metropolitan General Hospital, Marcus Wellington Racist Dr. Chicago, Marcus Wellington haircutting nurse. His professional reputation disintegrates in real time as millions watch his cruel laughter echo through the emergency room. But Wellington feels no shame, only rage at being exposed. At 9 a.m., he storms into the hospital administrator's office demanding immediate action. "I want that Rodriguez nurse fired for violating patient privacy policies, and Thompson needs disciplinary action for creating this media circus." Acting Administrator Janet Mills, Wellington's longtime ally, nods sympathetically. "We'll handle this quietly, Marcus. Just give it a few days to blow over." By noon, Wellington appears on Channel 7's midday show, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile coldly confident. Host Jessica Park tries maintaining journalistic neutrality, but her disgust shows through professional composure. "Dr. Wellington, viewers are calling your actions racist and abusive. How do you respond?" Wellington's laugh sounds exactly like the viral video. "Jessica, Political correctness has destroyed professional standards in healthcare. I was maintaining grooming policies that ensure patient safety and institutional reputation. Some people simply cannot handle constructive feedback. Constructive feedback? You forcibly cut a nurse's hair in front of patients and colleagues. I corrected a safety violation. Her burned, unprofessional appearance reflected poorly on our facility's standards. As Chief of Emergency Medicine, I have responsibility to maintain excellence. Jessica's eyebrows raise incredulously. Excellence? Or humiliation? Excellence, Wellington repeats firmly. And I refuse to apologize for refusing to lower standards just because certain individuals find accountability uncomfortable. The interview clip generates another viral wave. Wellington's arrogance shocks even hardened social media users. His refusal to show remorse amplifies the outrage exponentially. By evening, protesters gather outside Metropolitan General. The crowd grows from dozens to hundreds as word spreads through Chicago's black community. Signs read, "Fire Racist Wellington" and "Justice for Angela." Local ministers lead prayer circles. Civil rights organizations announce formal investigations. Wellington watches the protest coverage from his luxury office, sipping scotch and chuckling. "Troublemakers," he says in his reflection. "This will blow over like everything else." Inside the hospital, Angela faces a different kind of hell. Colleagues avoid her in hallways, afraid of guilt by association. Wellington assigns her to the pediatric isolation ward, the hospital's punishment detail for problem employees. 16 hours of changing bedpans and cleaning vomit from children too sick to care for themselves. He documents every interaction, building a termination file. Late response to patient call, 2 minutes. Inappropriate emotional display during shift change. Failure to follow chain of command protocols. Death by 1,000 paper cuts designed to force resignation before formal firing. Angela endures each humiliation silently. Her scalp still shows Wellington's handiwork, uneven patches where hair refuses to grow. She bought a wig, but it makes her feel like she's hiding, like she's ashamed of surviving his assault. Her mother calls during break. "Baby, I saw the news. Come home. We'll figure something else out for my treatments." "No, Mama," Angela whispers, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. "I'm not running. He wants me gone, which means I'm staying right here." What Angela doesn't know is that her husband spent the day in emergency meetings with hospital board members, federal investigators, and employment attorneys. The viral video provided evidence he'd been gathering for months, but Wellington's television interview sealed his fate completely. Wellington scheduled a mandatory staff meeting for Friday at 2 p.m. His plan? Announce Angela's termination for pattern of unprofessional conduct and inability to accept feedback. Security would escort her out immediately. The message would be clear. Challenge Wellington's authority. Face destruction. Thursday night, Angela receives an anonymous text message. "Wear your best uniform tomorrow. You're about to witness something beautiful." She stares at the message, wondering who sent it, wondering if someone finally found the courage to stand up to Wellington's reign of terror. Wellington sleeps peacefully in his penthouse apartment, dreaming of tomorrow's victory. He has no idea that his world is about to collapse in front of the same cameras that made him infamous. Justice moves quietly until it strikes like lightning. Friday morning arrives with Wellington's confidence soaring to dangerous heights. He struts through Metropolitan General's corridors like a conquering general, greeting staff members with theatrical warmth that barely conceals his anticipation for the afternoon's execution. "Good morning, Carmen," he calls Nurse Rodriguez, who documented his hair-cutting assault. "Looking forward to our staff meeting today. Should be quiet, educational." Carmen's hands shake as she updates patient charts. She knows what's coming. Everyone knows. Wellington made sure word spread through the hospital grapevine like poison. Angela Thompson's termination would serve as a lesson to anyone considering future disruptions. In the administrative wing, Wellington reviews his termination documentation with sadistic pleasure. 47 pages of manufactured complaints, twisted incidents, and creative interpretations of hospital policy. His legal team, funded by family money, assured him the paperwork would withstand any wrongful termination lawsuit. Chronic tardiness, arriving 30 seconds after shift change, he reads aloud to his reflection, chuckling. Inappropriate emotional responses to patient deaths, crying when children don't survive surgery. Failure to maintain professional appearance standards, the hair incident that started this whole mess. Each fabricated violation represents hours of surveillance, documentation, and careful construction of alternative narratives. Wellington transformed Angela's compassion into weakness, her dedication into insubordination, her survival instincts into unprofessional conduct. Meanwhile, Angela reports for her punishment in pediatric isolation. 16 hours of cleaning infectious waste, changing soiled bed sheets, and feeding children too sick to lift their heads. The assignment was designed to break her spirit, force resignation, and eliminate the need for formal termination. But Angela refuses to break. She tends to 5-year-old Destiny, fighting leukemia with a smile that melts hearts. "Nurse Angela, why does your hair look different?" the child asks innocently. "Sometimes grown-ups do mean things," Angela explains gently, adjusting Destiny's IV line. "But we don't let mean people change who we are inside." "Are you sad?" "Sometimes. But helping you feel better makes me happy again." Destiny giggles, reaching for Angela's hand. "You're the nicest nurse in the whole hospital." Those words sustain Angela through Wellington's systematic torture. Every cruel assignment, every documented violation, every whispered threat from his allies in administration. She clings to purpose. These children need her protection from a system that values profit over patience. At 11 a.m., Wellington holds a press conference in the hospital's main lobby. Local media gathers eagerly, drawn by the viral controversy and promise of dramatic developments. Wellington's silver hair gleams under television lights as he approaches the podium with practiced authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your continued interest in maintaining excellence at Metropolitan General Hospital," he begins smoothly. "Recent social media distortions have unfortunately mischaracterized routine personnel management as something more sinister." Reporters lean forward, sensing blood in the water. "This afternoon, we will address personnel issues that have created unnecessary distractions from our primary mission, providing exceptional health care to our community. Some individuals simply cannot adapt to the professional standards that distinguish premier institutions from ordinary facilities." Channel 7's Jessica Park raises her hand aggressively. "Dr. Wellington, are you terminating Nurse Thompson for exposing your racist behavior?" Wellington's laugh echoes through the marble lobby, identical to the viral video that destroyed his reputation. "Miss Park, I'm terminating an employee who consistently fails to meet basic professional requirements. Her inability to accept constructive feedback represents exactly the kind of attitude that undermines institutional excellence." "Constructive feedback? You forcibly cut her hair while laughing." "I addressed a grooming violation that compromised patient safety and hospital reputation. The dramatic social media response simply confirms this individual's unsuitability for professional healthcare environments." The press conference generates another viral wave, but this time the narrative shifts. Wellington's arrogance reaches levels that shock even his supporters. Comment sections explode with demands for his immediate termination. Arrogant racist doctor trends globally. Corporate sponsors begin distancing themselves from Wellington's family foundation. Medical conferences cancel his speaking engagements. Professional organizations quietly remove his name from award committees. The institutional protection that sustained his career for decades starts cracking under public pressure, but Wellington notices none of it. His narcissism blinds him to the gathering storm. At 1 p.m., he summons Security Chief Robert Hayes to his office. "I want Thompson escorted out immediately after the meeting. No personal items, no goodbyes, no dramatic scenes. Make it clean and professional." Hayes, a 20-year veteran who's watched Wellington destroy countless careers, nods reluctantly. "Yes, sir. Though I should mention, there's been some unusual activity in the director's office today. Multiple meetings, lawyers coming and going." "David Richardson?" Wellington waves dismissively. "Probably damage control for the board. This scandal reflects poorly on his leadership. He's probably more eager than anyone to see Thompson gone." Hayes doesn't mention the federal investigators who spent 3 hours reviewing security footage, or the employment attorneys who examined Wellington's personnel files, or the civil rights organizations demanding immediate federal intervention. Wellington spends the final hour before the meeting practicing his termination speech in front of his office mirror. He rehearses the precise words designed to humiliate Angela one final time, to demonstrate his absolute power over her career and future. Today, we bid farewell to an individual whose consistent inability to meet professional standards has disrupted our workplace harmony, he recites dramatically. Sometimes difficult decisions require strong leadership willing to prioritize institutional excellence over popular opinion. His reflection smiles back with pure malevolence. After today, no hospital employee would dare challenge his authority again. The message would be clear. Cross Marcus Wellington, face complete destruction. At 1:45 p.m., staff members file into the main auditorium with palpable tension. Angela sits in the front row, wearing her best uniform as instructed by the mysterious text message. Her new haircut, professionally styled at an expensive salon, transforms Wellington's attempted humiliation into elegant sophistication. Wellington enters through the back doors at exactly 2 p.m., flanked by security guards and followed by local news cameras he personally invited to witness Angela's public destruction. His stride exudes confidence. His smile broadcasts victory. His entire demeanor screams absolute power. He approaches the podium like a prosecutor delivering closing arguments in a murder trial. The audience, hospital staff, media representatives, community leaders, watches in tense silence as Wellington prepares to deliver what he believes will be the defining moment of his authoritarian reign. "Ladies and gentlemen," Wellington begins, his voice carrying across the packed auditorium, "excellence demands difficult decisions. Today we address personnel issues that have disrupted our professional environment and compromised our institutional reputation." His eyes find Angela in the front row, and his smile turns predatory. "Some individuals simply cannot adapt to the standards that distinguish premier healthcare institutions from ordinary facilities. Their inability to accept constructive feedback, combined with their tendency toward dramatic social media responses, demonstrates fundamental unsuitability for professional medical environments." The room holds its breath. Angela sits perfectly still, her head held high, refusing to give Wellington the satisfaction of seeing her break. Wellington savors the moment, preparing to deliver the killing blow to her career. He has no idea that David Richardson stands just outside the auditorium doors, federal termination documents in hand, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything Wellington has built through decades of systematic cruelty. The reckoning begins in 60 seconds. Wellington's voice booms across the packed auditorium with the confidence of a man who believes himself untouchable. Today we address the case of Nurse Angela Thompson, whose pattern of unprofessional conduct has reached its inevitable conclusion. Media cameras focus on Angela's face, expecting tears or pleas for mercy. Instead, they capture serene dignity that confuses Wellington. She should be trembling. She should be begging. Her calm composure irritates him, fueling his cruelty. Over the past year, Miss Thompson has demonstrated consistent inability to maintain basic professional standards, Wellington continues, savoring each poisonous word. Late arrivals, inappropriate emotional responses, and most recently, creating public spectacles that damage our institutional reputation. He gestures toward the cameras with theatrical flair. Her social media campaign against legitimate personnel management represents exactly the kind of behavior that undermines workplace harmony and patient care quality. The audience shifts uncomfortably. Wellington's naked sadism disgusts even his allies, but power protects him. Board connections, family donations, political influence. Who could possibly challenge his absolute authority in this hospital kingdom he's ruled for decades? Her inability to accept constructive feedback demonstrates fundamental unsuitability for professional medical environments, Wellington declares, his voice dripping with mock concern. When I attempted to address her grooming violations, hair singed from reckless patient care, she responded with social media theatrics instead of professional accountability. Angela remains motionless, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Her unexpected composure puzzles Wellington, but he assumes shock has rendered her speechless. He feeds off her apparent helplessness. Therefore, effective immediately, Angela Thompson's employment at Metropolitan General Hospital is terminated for cause. Security will escort her from the premises within the next 5 minutes. Wellington pauses for maximum dramatic effect, his smile radiating pure malevolence. The audience holds its collective breath. Several staff members look away, unable to witness another colleague's destruction under Wellington's systematic cruelty. Furthermore, Wellington continues, emboldened by what he perceives as total victory, let this serve as a lesson to anyone considering similar disruptions to our workplace harmony. Professional standards exist for reasons that transcend individual feelings or social media popularity. He turns directly toward Angela, his eyes glittering with sadistic pleasure. Sometimes leadership requires making unpopular decisions to preserve institutional excellence. We cannot allow personal agendas or racial activism to compromise the professional standards that distinguish premier healthcare facilities from ordinary. The auditorium doors explode open with thunderous force. David Richardson strides through the entrance wearing a perfectly tailored Navy suit, his presence commanding immediate attention from every person in the packed room. Hospital staff recognize him instantly, the mysterious new director who's been implementing reforms from the shadows for 3 months. Media cameras swing toward him like heat-seeking missiles, sensing dramatic shift in the narrative power structure. Wellington freezes mid-sentence, confusion replacing confidence. His mouth hangs open stupidly as his brain struggles to process this unexpected interruption to his carefully orchestrated public execution of Angela's career. "Sir, this is a departmental personnel meeting," Wellington stammers, his voice losing its authoritative boom. "I wasn't aware you planned to attend this afternoon's proceedings." David walks down the center aisle with measured, deliberate steps that echo through the suddenly silent auditorium. His expression remains unreadable, but power radiates from every movement. The entire crowd holds its breath as he approaches the podium where Wellington stands exposed and suddenly, terrifyingly vulnerable. "Dr. Wellington," David's voice carries natural authority that makes Wellington instinctively step backward like a scolded child. "This meeting was never about removing Nurse Thompson from her position. It's about removing you from yours." Wellington's face cycles rapidly through confusion, irritation, and dawning alarm. His confident smile falters as he realizes he's lost control of his own termination spectacle. "I don't understand," Wellington protests weakly. "Who authorized you to interrupt official departmental business? I'm conducting legitimate personnel management according to established hospital policies and—" "I did," David declares, reaching the podium and turning to face the stunned audience of staff members, media representatives, and community leaders. As hospital director of Metropolitan General Hospital and as Angela Thompson Richardson's husband, the auditorium erupts in collective shock. Gasps echo through the crowd like rolling thunder during a violent storm. Media cameras capture Wellington's face crumbling in real time, decades of practiced arrogance dissolving into pure shock, then mounting terror. Angela turns in her seat, her composed mask finally breaking into a radiant smile that transforms her entire appearance from victim to victor. Wellington stumbles backward, nearly tripping over the microphone cord. His mind struggles desperately to process this impossible reversal of everything he thought he knew about power dynamics and institutional control. "Husband? But this can't be possible." Wellington's voice cracks like an adolescent boy's, his usual commanding tone replaced by bewildered squeaking. "Married for 6 months," David continues with devastating calm, producing a thick manila folder that seems to glow under the auditorium lights. Angela chose to maintain her maiden name professionally to avoid exactly this kind of conflict of interest. "Unfortunately, your escalating behavior made direct intervention absolutely necessary." The crowd murmurs with electric anticipation, sensing blood in the water. Wellington's supporters in hospital administration look panicked, suddenly realizing their complicity in his systematic abuse just became a career-ending liability that could destroy their own positions. David opens the folder with ceremonial precision, revealing months of meticulous documentation that represents Wellington's professional death warrant. "For the past 3 months, I've been conducting a comprehensive investigation into reports of racial discrimination, systematic harassment, and flagrant abuse of authority in the emergency department. Your performance during that investigation exceeded even my worst expectations." Wellington attempts to recover his familiar arrogance, reaching desperately for the institutional power that always protected him before. "This is a highly irregular procedure. You can't just burst into official meetings and—" "Dr. Marcus Wellington," David's voice cuts through his protests like surgical steel through infected tissue. You are hereby terminated immediately for cause, effective this moment. The formal charges include systematic racial discrimination spanning multiple years, workplace harassment of minority employees, flagrant abuse of administrative authority, and deliberately creating a hostile work environment in direct violation of federal civil rights legislation. Security guards appear at David's subtle signal, not to escort Angela out as Wellington planned, but to surround the man who ordered her public humiliation. The same guards who received Wellington's instructions to march her through the hospital in shame now serve his own termination papers. "This is absolutely outrageous!" Wellington shouts, his voice cracking with raw desperation and disbelief. "My family built this hospital from nothing. We've donated millions of dollars over decades. You can't possibly do this to me." David's expression remains implacable as granite. "Your family's financial contributions won't protect you from legal consequences anymore, Marcus. This hospital now operates under new leadership genuinely committed to actual excellence, not systematic racism disguised as professional standards." The manila folder contains devastating evidence that Wellington never suspected existed. 8 years of meticulously documented discrimination complaints, suspicious patterns in minority staff assignments, sworn witness statements from dozens of employees, security footage of inappropriate interactions, and damning financial records showing exactly how Wellington's donations influenced administrative decisions in his favor. The haircutting incident was merely the public culmination of systematic abuse that this institution has tolerated for far too long, David announces to the captivated audience. Today marks the permanent end of that institutional tolerance. Wellington's eyes dart desperately around the auditorium, seeking allies who suddenly avoid his gaze like plague victims. Board members who once protected him from consequences now study their phones with intense focus. Administrative staff members who enabled his cruelty suddenly remember urgent appointments elsewhere in the building. You've also been formally reported to the State Medical Licensing Board for professional misconduct, David continues relentlessly, each word hammering another nail into Wellington's career coffin. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice has opened a federal investigation into your behavior patterns, and 3 separate employment law firms are preparing comprehensive class action lawsuits on behalf of your numerous victims. Angela rises gracefully from her front row seat, moving with elegant dignity to stand beside her husband at the podium. The transformation is absolutely stunning, from humiliated victim to vindicated victor in mere moments. Her new haircut, professionally styled at an expensive salon and absolutely gorgeous, serves as the perfect symbol of resilience, triumphing over systematic racism. "Dr. Wellington," Angela speaks for the first time since entering the auditorium, her voice steady and strong as steel. "For 8 years, I endured your harassment and discrimination because patients needed protection from your hatred. I stayed in this position because leaving would have meant you achieved victory." Wellington stares at her with naked hatred, his carefully constructed mask of medical professionalism completely shattered by rage and disbelief. You planned this entire thing. The hair incident, the viral video, everything was an elaborate setup to destroy my career." "No," Angela replies with firm conviction that resonates through every corner of the auditorium. "You cutting my hair was pure cruelty motivated by racial hatred. But your television appearance, your arrogant press conference this morning, your sadistic speech just now, that was pure stupidity. You destroyed yourself with your own uncontrolled hatred." David signals the security team with professional efficiency. "Escort Dr. Wellington from hospital premises immediately. He's permanently banned from this property pending resolution of all federal investigations and legal proceedings." Wellington's legs buckle as reality crashes down like a collapsing building. His career utterly destroyed, his reputation completely obliterated, his political influence permanently gone. Everything he built through decades of systematic cruelty disappears in minutes of cosmic justice. "This isn't over," he screams as security guards firmly take his arms. "I'll fight this decision. I'll sue everyone involved. You can't destroy my entire life like this." "Marcus!" David's voice follows him toward the exit, calm and final as a judge's gavel. "You destroyed your own life the moment you chose hatred over healing. We simply documented the evidence you provided." The auditorium erupts in sustained, thunderous applause as Wellington disappears through the doors, his desperate protests fading into distant corridor echoes. Hospital staff members, particularly minority employees who suffered his abuse for years, cheer with pure cathartic joy that decades of oppression has finally ended. Angela and David embrace at the podium while cameras capture their complete triumph. The woman who entered this room facing career termination now stands completely vindicated, her dignity restored, her courage rewarded with justice. Justice has finally arrived at Metropolitan General Hospital. The auditorium slowly empties as Wellington's career lies in smoking ruins. Staff members linger, still processing the dramatic reversal they just witnessed. Minority employees who suffered years of silent oppression finally breathe freely, their faces glowing with newfound hope. Dr. Priya Patel approaches Angela with tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry I never spoke up before. He made me feel so small, so powerless." Angela embraces her colleague warmly. "We were all afraid, Priya, but today changes everything." Nurse Carmen Rodriguez, who filmed the original haircutting incident, joins them with her phone displaying viral social media celebrations. #Justice for Angela explodes across platforms as the termination video spreads globally. Wellington's downfall becomes the most satisfying power reversal story of the year. "Look at this," Carmen laughs, scrolling through comments. "Millions of people are celebrating your victory. You've given hope to everyone who's ever faced workplace racism." Within hours, the story transforms from local hospital drama to international symbol of justice prevailing over institutional power. Major news networks request interviews. Civil rights organizations praise the outcome as proof that systematic change remains possible. But the sweetest victory comes from an unexpected source. 7-year-old Marcus Williams, the burn victim Angela saved, returns for follow-up treatment with his mother. His bandages cover healing skin, but his eyes shine with innocent wisdom beyond his years. "Nurse Angela," he calls, running toward her with careful steps. "Mommy said the mean doctor can't hurt you anymore." Angela kneels to his level, her heart swelling with purpose renewed. "That's right, sweetheart, and he can't hurt anyone else either." "Good," Marcus declares solemnly. "Nice people should be safe at work." His mother, tears flowing freely, squeezes Angela's hands. "Thank you for saving my baby, and thank you for showing him that good people fight back against bullies." The systemic changes begin immediately under David's leadership. He implements comprehensive anti-discrimination training for all staff levels. Anonymous reporting systems replace the corrupt human resources department that protected Wellington for years. Most importantly, he promotes qualified minority employees to leadership positions throughout the hospital. Angela accepts the newly created position of Assistant Director of Nursing, but her real victory lies in cultural transformation. For the first time in Metropolitan General's history, minority staff members feel genuinely safe reporting harassment without fear of retaliation. The investigation reveals Wellington's abuse extended far beyond racial harassment. Female residents describe inappropriate comments about their appearance. International doctors faced constant mockery of their accents. Older nurses endured ageist discrimination disguised as performance evaluations. Wellington created a culture of fear that infected every department, David explains during a staff-wide assembly. Healing that culture requires acknowledging every victim and ensuring such systematic abuse never happens again. The financial reckoning proves equally devastating for Wellington personally. His medical license faces permanent revocation after the state board reviews overwhelming evidence of discriminatory conduct. 3 separate class action lawsuits seek millions in damages for his victims. Most painfully for his narcissistic ego, his wealthy family publicly distances themselves from his actions. The Wellington Foundation, built on generations of philanthropic reputation, removes his name from all boards and committees. His trust fund, contingent on maintaining professional standing, evaporates with his medical license. Wellington's final public appearance comes during a federal Civil Rights Division hearing. Gone is the arrogant doctor who laughed while cutting Angela's hair. In his place sits a broken man facing potential criminal charges for violating federal employment law. "Dr. Wellington," the federal investigator reads from official findings, "your pattern of discriminatory conduct represents one of the most systematic cases of workplace racism we've encountered in healthcare." Wellington mumbles apologies that ring hollow after years of unrepentant cruelty. His legal team negotiates plea agreements to avoid prison time, but his medical career dies permanently in that federal courtroom. 6 months later, Angela stands in the same emergency department where Wellington humiliated her. But everything has changed. The staff reflects genuine diversity at every level. Patient satisfaction scores reach record highs. Medical errors decrease dramatically as fear-based silence transforms into collaborative communication. She passes the spot where her hair fell like black snow across white tiles. Today, that same floor hosts a children's art therapy session led by burn survivors, including young Marcus Williams. His recovery amazes everyone, physically and emotionally stronger because he witnessed justice triumph over cruelty. "Miss Angela!" Marcus calls, showing his latest drawing. "I drew you and Mr. David fighting the monster." The picture shows two figures holding hands while a dark creature slinks away defeated. In a child's imagination, good conquers evil through courage and love. Angela frames the drawing in her new office, a daily reminder that dignity cannot be stolen, only temporarily hidden. Her professional headshots now feature her beautiful, precisely styled hair, transforming Wellington's intended humiliation into elegant empowerment. The hospital's transformation extends beyond personnel changes. David establishes the Angela Thompson Richardson Center for Workplace Dignity, providing legal resources for healthcare workers facing discrimination nationwide. The center's mission statement hangs in the main lobby where Wellington once held his arrogant press conferences. Every employee deserves respect, safety, and equal opportunity regardless of race, gender, religion, or background. Excellence in healthcare requires excellence in human dignity. Wellington himself fades into well-deserved obscurity. Last reports place him working at a small rural clinic 2,000 miles away, finally learning to treat all patients with basic respect under constant supervision. His colleagues describe a fundamentally changed man, humbled, careful, no longer the laughing tyrant who terrorized the Metropolitan General. But his victims remember everything. They remember the fear, the helplessness, the systematic destruction of careers and confidence. They also remember that courage can defeat institutional racism when good people refuse to stay silent. Angela's story spreads through medical communities nationwide, inspiring other healthcare workers to document discrimination and demand accountability. Her example proves that individual courage, combined with systematic support, can transform entire institutions. The revolution began with one nurse refusing to quit after her hair was cut. It ended with an entire hospital culture rebuilt around dignity, respect, and genuine excellence that includes everyone. Sometimes justice moves slowly, but when it finally arrives, it changes everything forever. 1 year later, Angela Thompson Richardson stands before a packed auditorium at the National Healthcare Workers Conference. Her elegant presence commands absolute attention as she addresses thousands of medical professionals from across the country. "Power reveals character, but justice reveals truth," she begins, her voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. "My story proves that dignity cannot be stolen, only temporarily hidden by those who mistake cruelty for strength." The audience listens with rapt attention to her keynote address about transforming workplace culture through courage and systematic change. Her journey from humiliated victim to national advocate inspires healthcare workers facing their own battles against institutional racism. Recent data validates her message with sobering statistics. Healthcare workers of color face discrimination at 3 times the rate of their white colleagues. 67% report experiencing workplace harassment based on race or ethnicity. Yet studies consistently show that diverse medical teams save more lives and provide superior patient care. "The science is clear," Angela continues. "Hospitals that embrace genuine diversity don't just treat employees better. They heal patients more effectively. Inclusion isn't just morally right, it's medically essential." Her transformation from that night shift nurse to national spokesperson represents more than personal triumph. Metropolitan General Hospital now leads the nation in diversity metrics, patient satisfaction scores, and employee retention rates. Medical schools cite the hospital's cultural revolution as a model for institutional change. Wellington thought he was maintaining standards, Angela reflects, but his real standard was hatred disguised as professionalism. True excellence requires treating every human being with dignity, regardless of the color of their skin or the origin of their name. The ripple effects extend far beyond one Chicago hospital. The Angela Thompson Richardson Center for Workplace Dignity has processed over 3,000 discrimination complaints, achieving favorable resolutions in 85% of cases. Federal legislation now requires mandatory bias training for all healthcare administrators. Most importantly, the culture of silence that protected systematic abusers has begun cracking nationwide. Healthcare workers increasingly document harassment, report discrimination, and support colleagues facing retaliation. Social media campaigns inspired by Angela's story give voice to previously silenced victims. "I didn't fight back that night because the shock paralyzed me," Angela admits to her audience. "But I stayed because leaving would have meant Wellington won. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to disappear when they want you gone." Her message resonates through conference halls, hospital break rooms, and medical school classrooms. Young nurses of color see her example and choose courage over compliance. Experienced doctors find strength to challenge discriminatory policies they've tolerated for decades. The practical lessons from her experience provide actionable guidance for healthcare workers everywhere. Document everything: emails, conversations, incidents, witnesses. Build coalitions with colleagues who share commitment to equality. Report harassment through official channels while protecting yourself legally. Support doesn't require perfection, Angela emphasizes. It requires presence. Stand with colleagues facing discrimination, even when it feels uncomfortable. Your voice matters more than you realize. But the deepest transformation occurred within Angela herself. The confident woman addressing thousands bears little resemblance to the terrified nurse who once feared losing her job meant losing her mother's life. She discovered that dignity defended becomes dignity multiplied. "Wellington took scissors to my hair, but he couldn't touch my spirit," she concludes. Today, that same spirit lives in every healthcare worker who chooses courage over comfort, justice over silence. The standing ovation lasts 7 minutes. Audience members wipe away tears while simultaneously filming her words to share with colleagues unable to attend. Her message spreads across social media platforms, inspiring a new generation of healthcare advocates. Wellington's legacy stands in stark contrast. Professional conferences remove his research from citation databases. Medical textbooks delete references to his contributions. His name disappears from hospital foundations and research endowments, erased like a surgeon removing malignant tissue. But Angela's legacy grows stronger daily. Young medical students wear pins featuring her image. Nursing schools require coursework in the cultural transformation she inspired. Her autobiography becomes required reading in healthcare administration programs nationwide. "This hospital now saves more lives because we value every voice," David adds during their joint interviews. Wellington's termination didn't just remove one racist, it liberated an entire institution to achieve genuine excellence. The ultimate victory came 6 months ago when Metropolitan General received the National Award for Healthcare Equity Excellence. Angela accepted the trophy on behalf of every employee who found courage to speak truth to power. Today's call to action extends beyond inspiration to concrete steps viewers can take immediately. If you've witnessed workplace discrimination, start documenting everything with dates, times, and witnesses. Support colleagues facing harassment by listening, believing, and advocating. Share stories like Angela's to remind others that justice may be delayed, but it's never denied. Subscribe to this channel for more stories proving that ordinary people can defeat institutional racism through extraordinary courage. Drop a muscle emoji if you believe everyone deserves dignity at work. Share this video if you think Wellington received exactly what he deserved. Most importantly, answer this question honestly. What would you have done in Angela's shoes? Would you have stayed to fight? Or would fear have driven you away? Your answer might reveal more about your character than you expect. But remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing justice despite the fear. The revolution continues with every person who refuses to let hatred win.